Okay, line count size and conceptual size of code, and why they are not the same thing, or why you shouldn't bother so much about the line count size. So if you look at a lot of people that are speaking about code quality in the industry, they all usually use measurements like size of code as a smell, or make restrictions of how many lines you can use to force you to write better code. But the problem is that they actually doesn't have as much related to each other as you think. And the thing is that if you look at a code that is maybe 40 lines, you could probably smash that into 4 lines, and they would still do the same thing, but they would actually be harder to read than the original code. And the thing is that we want to write code that is easy to read. And when I say easy to read, I actually don't mean characters per second, but I mean easier to understand. The concept of code written for computers is nice, but actually that's what we have compilers for. They're going to handle that and make it easier for the computer to read it. And they are good at reading many lines of code anyway, so it doesn't matter. We want to write code that is easy for us as developers to read and specifically understand, so that we don't make errors when we edit the code, which we will do even if you don't think you will do. Okay, there are some ways you can write code that you never need to edit in the code, but you are not that good. Anyway, going back to the actual topic of today is the line count size versus the conceptual size. And the conceptual size is, if we have a function, for example, that adds 2 numbers together, that is the concept. The concept is we are adding numbers together. And that's the only thing that should be in that function, method, subroutine, whatever. We should only add numbers together. If we're doing something else, like looping or whatever, then that is probably another concept, and we should have another function doing that. For example, if we are going to add many numbers, maybe we have one function that can add 2 numbers, and then we have some function that we're able to duplicate this so that we can add 3 numbers with this function that only adds 2. And then the add 3 numbers function would be easier to read, because we understand, oh, we will only do this 3 times. For example, we could use the reduce function or the fold L function or R function if you know functional programming. Anyway, so why is it bad to use line count as a measurement for if code is good or bad? Well, the reason that is bad is because we have this thing called one-liners that people love to do and they hate to read and understand. And the thing is that you can, in most programming languages, kind of cheat and putting more stuff into one statement or one line than you actually should. So, for example, having a lot of nested functions calls, or as if you use JavaScript, you usually have the train wreck of method chaining, and that is one line, but it's usually, well, okay, sometimes it's a good thing, but usually it's not a good thing. So we want to just split code up into smaller conceptual sizes instead of small code sizes, and hopefully we will get smaller code size, but that should be an effect of having smaller concepts, not the other way around. And on the topic of other things that we should make smaller, it's not only the concept, but also the context. So usually a smaller concept means a smaller context, and the context is the things you need to have in your head to read the code and interpret it so that you know what actually happened. You could say role-playing the computer. So usually what you want is to minimize the amount of in parameters and minimize the out parameters, and minimize, if you do, for example, object-oriented programming, minimize the amount of values you have on the object, so that you can make sure that you're not tripping on someone else's toe or whatever. So first of all, minimize concept. If you can't do that better than you have done, minimize context. And lastly, check that your lines count reflect your context and concept. So that's everything from me. I think this one's good. If you really like this video, like it. And if you have anything to say at all, give a comment, because I need them to make this better. And thank you for watching, because this was a blast. So, bye.